Hello, I'm singer-songwriter and activist Pierre Vanderweel. I'm the founder of Stronger with Music, and we promote the importance of music and social impact, and also music and mental health. And recently, I took the Spotlight Initiative and Social Good Club culture change commitment to end violence against women and girls. So today, I'm speaking about gender-based violence with two incredible women who are both advocates on this issue, the host and model Aisha Perry-Iqbal, and also the sustainability activist Amber Allen. Hello, ladies, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having us.
I wanted to start by sharing a clip from my Used and Domestic Violence music video campaign. This clip that I've chosen from the music video shows how we can take action through the signal for help hand gesture created by the Canadian Women's Foundation. And this is a distress signal to show when someone is experiencing domestic violence. So here is the clip.
Said you couldn't lose again, but that's no excuse. Said you couldn't lose again, but that's no excuse.
So I wanted to start off by talking of the power and also advocacy behind your personal stories, and also how you are using your platforms to raise further awareness to this issue of gender-based violence. So as a survivor of violence, do you think that there's enough awareness around early signs of abusive behavior? Let's start with Aisha.
I don't think there are. When I got into I will just call it a horrible relationship, I didn't have a clue what like gaslighting was. I didn't know what manipulation was. I didn't know that it was controlling behavior for a man to say to me, oh, I need to know where you are. Because I just thought that was, oh, they're trying to see if I'm safe. I didn't know that that was them needing to know where I was because they then wanted to control my behavior and isolate me from my friends and family. So I don't think that we talk about it enough. I don't think that people know what a healthy relationship looks like. Because I think a lot of people with social media don't have a healthy relationship with themselves. So how do they have one with other people? So I think that my answer would definitely be no.
And Amber, what about yourself?
As a survivor of domestic violence, I don't think there's enough awareness around the early signs of any sort of abuse, especially domestic violence or domestic abuse. And I think we need to start education in schools. I think we need to start educating our children about the early signs of domestic violence, not only to prevent it and teach young boys about how to treat women and girls in relationships, but so that young women and young girls know what to look for when they're in a bad situation. And if we can start there, start with our children, we can correct the stigma going forward, and the next generation can be stronger than we are.
We obviously need to make change now, for we're the ones getting into relationships now. And
exactly.
And I also think that in the last year, I've noticed that there's been a lot more people coming forward, women coming forward with their abuse stories. There was a rapper here in the UK, his girlfriend just came forward about her abuse. And I've noticed that even though women are coming forward, men and women, their opinion is very toxic towards the abusee. And they don't hold the man accountable, especially if the man is of some sort of stature, public figure, influencer, whatever that person is, they blame the woman for it. And that is also really negative, and that happens a lot on social media. And that's something as adults that we need to work on. And I totally agree with the children thing, but what we can do right now is keep holding these men, these grown men, accountable, because they're the ones having children, and we need to also change the next generation as well. So just jumping off of what you said, Amber.
just going to chime in there as well, because it's just part of that stigma that goes against coming forward and talking about it. We have the Me Too movement, and we have all these women coming forward talking about people of power and the sexual harassment in workplaces, and talking about rape and domestic violence. And you have, again, toxicity in our culture about women who come forward. And if we see women who are being abused, are seeing these women come forward with their stories and the toxicity related to them coming forward, I think that's horrible and goes against any work that's being done to counteract abuse. So it's really, we have to hold everyone accountable for their actions, and we need to erase this toxicity with the stigma of coming forward. It's important to come forward. It's important to talk about, and we can't allow that to downgrade women in any way. It should be a symbol of power to come forward.
Yeah, and also to believe them as well.
Yes,
like if a woman is coming forward and saying, this has happened to me, it's not, oh, well, what did you do? She's obviously lying because of this. No, let's listen to the story. What happened to you? Thanks for coming forward. And here you are now, you're in a safe space and we support you. Now we can give you help. Thank you for coming forward, which means other women will then come forward and say, I am being abused.
Exactly. It's standing within your own power and having the power from everyone else to listen to your story. So feel like other people can come forward.
Yeah.
And what you were saying, Amber, about erasing toxicity, I mean, that actually links on perfectly to my next question of whether or not you think that the industries that you're in promotes gender stereotypes that actually perpetuate violence against women and girls. What do you think?
I think in the industry I work in social media, in YouTube and that sort of atmosphere, you're treated like a consumable object. And you're just there for people's entertainment and enjoyment. And you always have to be on, you always have to be pretty or people will comment, things like that. And so if you're treated like a consumable object, if a woman is treated like a consumable object, then women, or rather men, anyone really, will treat women like objects, like not worthy of being a human, not worthy of having more complexity than just being something to be consumed. And so I definitely think that social media can be very, very toxic like that. Just, you're there, there's this idea that every influencer has to have this like perfect Instagram and this perfect life. And so it's very, very fabricated. It's very, very just fake. And make like the way we continue on that path, the way that every influencer has this fake sort of Instagram or this fake sort of YouTube life, it just perpetuates the toxicity involved in being this like object to be consumed. So it's like, if you want to stop that toxicity, you have to be more real and be more honest and be complex and have imperfections and talk about things like domestic violence and if it happened to you or not. And so that's why I talk about it.
And for you, Aisha, as a model within the fashion industry.
I totally agree with what you're saying. Just to piggyback off of it, because everything she said is what I totally agree with. The way people talk about relationships on social media is very surfacey, and people seem to think it's funny to have a toxic situation. Like even the cancel culture, everything that comes with nowadays, like the way relationships are, it's cool to have a toxic situation, like, oh, I'm gonna go back and sleep with my ex even though he treated me bad and he doesn't text me back. And like, it's cool to do that. And I don't understand why that's cool, because if I come on social media because I talk about healthy relationships, even being a plus size model, I try not to edit my pictures. I try to show what a real body looks like, because
your real self.
Yeah. And I noticed that it's so hard for people to even consume that. Talking about consuming things, people find it weird to see like a normal body. So they obviously find it weird to see a normal relationship too, because if you look at TV and film, they romanticize violence on TV and film. oh, wow, he hit me, so he loves me so much.
Mhm.
No, that's the cycle of abuse.
So
Yeah.
let's now talk about what
Mhm.
actions we can do, or both of you have taken, to change the culture in the industry or to challenge the mentalities of those around you.
You want to go
You
first?
wanna-
You can go first.
Up to you, ladies.
What have I done to challenge the behaviors and talk more about abuse? Well, I'm not really on YouTube, but I did a YouTube video about the cycle of abuse and what you can do to help if you have a friend or a family member that's in a situation. I did that. Also, I talk about it a lot on my social media. I've shared abuse pictures. I've shared like even previous text messages from an ex of mine, just to show like behaviors. And also, when something comes up in the news, I talk about it because it needs to be talked about. And I find now a lot of women follow me because they feel that they have a safe space that they can talk about abuse, and they can even leave their partners because they've seen that I've left my partner. I've had time. Some of them have followed me for years. I've had time, had therapy, worked on everything, and now I have a really healthy relationship with a great partner. And they and not that being in another relationship is hope, but I think just seeing the whole like arc of it,
You've come
they
out
think,
of it.
oh wow, there's a healthy relationship I can actually look at, because the way she talks about things and the things she's been through. And I've been in 2 abusive relationships, so it's just like I went into one, stumbled into another without even realizing. So now if I talk about it, then they can really relate to those things. I've also collabed with a few brands to raise money for charity, and also talk to like lots and lots of women on their brands about domestic violence. And even those brands didn't know anything about it. I'm sitting there directing the whole shoot and being like, oh, well, this is this and this is this. And I'm thinking, this is a whole woman-owned brand. And
They should know. They should make themselves accountable to
Absolutely.
understand.
but they want to know, but it's just
Right.
like, they just don't know how to know. And then they're like, oh, well, this has happened to me. This has happened to me. This has happened to me. And I'm like, it's crazy how it takes so much strength to be able to open up and say something like, and I realize that I'm a really strong person to be able to do this, but there's so many other women silently suffering.
Mhm.
And that's basically what I've done. Eventually I would love to do way more, whatever I can, put all these men in jail that are abusers, and like do whatever we need to do. but for right now, that's what I do. I use my reach to be able to talk about it. Even if I do press interviews or whatever, I always bring it up somehow and just put it in there, even if it makes people uncomfortable, because I'm like, no, we need to talk about it. I had nobody to look up to. I didn't have anybody that I could see was going through the same thing. I just felt like so alone.
I talk about domestic violence on my social media because I want other women and girls who are experiencing the same thing to not feel alone. So I like to bring awareness to what to look for. Are you being gaslighted? Are you with someone who is a narcissist? And then so I bring things up like that just so that people can see the signs, so they can see what they're in. And I talk about the domestic abuse situation I was in, and I recount it every few months, just so that new people can see it and read it and think about what may be going on in their own lives. And I have found that with the pandemic, I have had so many women reaching out to me about situations they're in. And I have a big account, but I will message people back one-on-one and get them help. I will help them find, services that will help them. I will, send messages around my network, trying to get help for people or trying to get them to go to a shelter or get information. And I think that helps a lot. But just the fact that here I am on social media and I need to educate people about those things says something, that there's not enough education. And I just think that, especially with social media, there's this like, you're an object to be consumed, and it's just so fake in a lot of ways. I think that the more people talk about real experiences, the real stuff, the real life they have lived, and talk about the domestic violence situations they have been in, the more awareness is brought into it. Because suddenly you're not an influencer or a YouTuber anymore. You're a real person who has lived through stuff. And you have no idea who may be listening. And I just want to reach all the people who were in the same situation I was in, because I was so alone. I didn't have anyone to talk to. And when I did talk to people about the situation I was in, they told me how lucky I was that my husband at the time would give me gifts after we fought. And how, even if he might hit me, at least he still loves me and things like that. Not really the things you should be listening to. And I felt so alone. I just don't want other people to feel alone. I want them to be able to see someone who made it through, who gives them good information about what to look for, and makes it out and is in a better position than I was in. Because I wish I had that person. I wish I had a person like me to tell me what to do. And so I just want I want people to not be in that position I was in, alone like that.
Well, both of you ladies are so amazing for helping those who are out there, that do feel alone and feel they can look up to you and reach out to you, from sending personal messages and responding back. And it's so empowering, giving us all that.
Can I just interject once? Also, what I feel like needs to happen is there needs to be more pages or social media access, because for me, I put my stuff out there. I have I have a big following, but people are only seeing it through other people that follow me. If you search domestic violence on Instagram, the pages that come up are little like small meme pages with like 50 followers.
Yes,
I know.
Oh yeah, it's awful.
It is.
There's no real anywhere. If you're looking for help and you don't know where to look, they don't know how to find us.
Right.
There needs to be something there where you can just search it and they happen to come across us.
Or there's real people. Yeah.
People that they can relate to, because like we've both said, we both felt that we had nobody to look at, but I'm pretty sure we're not the first.
No, absolutely not.
So if we had maybe if I'd seen her or she had seen me, we might have been in a situation where we could have left earlier, or we had more information. I used to Google, like, trying to find information of how I can leave safely and whatever, and like hide it on my phone. Still, there was not really that much. So I think what we're doing right now and everything that we all do outside on social media is so, so important. And I just need to like emphasize how important it is.
And all of us having this conversation today is also so important.
Yes.
I mean, in terms of the actions of what people that are watching this video right now can do in their own lives, I mean, how can we create this sort of safer society for women and girls? I mean, I know Ayesha, you just mentioned the fact that we should have something on Instagram that sort of brings everyone together and has a sort of a hub that people can go to. So yeah, what do you think? How can we create this safer society?
I think that it really starts with breaking that stigma about people coming forward and allowing that open discussion to take place without toxicity. The more aware we are of domestic violence and the people coming forward with their stories, the more open we are to those stories, the more of a safe space we create, the more healing that can be done in our society, and the more awareness can be brought about it. We can teach our children. I think it really does start. We can do so much now about awareness, but a lot of this starts with kids. And I think the more education in schools, like people bring up all the time about schools not teaching us about taxes. Well, they should be teaching us about what a healthy relationship looks like and what abuse looks like in relationships. And it starts with your kids. Parents talk about, their children being adults and going into bad relationships, but the bad relationship I was in, this took me years of therapy, and I had to unpack this. It was because a certain type of relationship was modeled for me by my parents. And so what I did is I went and repeated it because that was what was familiar to me. So it really stops, it has to stop with the parents, and it has to stop with you. You can't keep continuing that cycle. How are we going to stop the cycle from occurring if we don't stop it with ourselves? So by bringing awareness to it, by stopping patterns within ourselves, by teaching and educating our children about what to look for and what is not normal, then we can really open that door in society to have a safe conversation and a safe space for the people who come forward.
Yeah, I agree. And then also on top of that, I think it's also having a healthy relationship with yourself first.
Absolutely. Yes.
Like teaching your children to like themselves. Like going back to even what I was saying about body image for girls, even if that happens for young boys too. And then also my boyfriend and I were having a conversation earlier about how men don't feel comfortable expressing their emotions as much as women. So that's giving men, young boys, a safe space to express themselves in a normal, healthy way so they can find a love for themselves. I know that sounds really like hipstery, but it really is so important. And I realized after I left my relationship and had therapy and everything, I realized the only way to have a healthy relationship with someone else is if you have a healthy relationship with yourself. Yeah. And there was lots of pieces that were taken away from me and my self-esteem and lots of things mentally that like were forced upon me. But when I started to piece those things back together and I started to really start to love myself, like truly love myself again, then you don't even allow disrespect from anyone else.
Absolutely.
And I'm just talking disrespect, not even abuse.
Yeah.
You don't allow it from anyone because you're like, no, I hold myself at such a high regard. And that's not cockiness. That's just me knowing my worth, that I don't allow that from anyone else, man, woman, employer, whoever it is. So I think loving yourself, teaching young children that is really important on top of everything you were saying. Yeah. And then also I think it's abusers only continue what they're doing because they're being enabled by people around them. Just as you said in your story, everyone around you was like, well, he loves you so much. Like you should be lucky. No, all those people are they're enablers. Yeah. So it's also holding the people around you accountable in your direct circle, people you can actually see and deal with. You have to be like, no, this behavior is wrong, whether they're hitting their partner or not. I know that that's on the extreme level, but I have lots of male friends. If they're doing something that I feel is even slightly toxic towards their partner, I'm like, you can't do that. That's not healthy. And this is why it's not healthy. And then they're like, oh, I didn't think of it like that. I didn't know. Well, I'm glad that I'm here to have this conversation with you. And I think
more people like that. We need to
exactly. And I also feel exactly. And I also feel like in groups of males in particular, women are more open to speak, but in groups of males, I think that they need to hold each other accountable. They need to be like, bro, no, like it's not okay to go and manipulate your girlfriend because you want to go and have sex with somebody else. I know that that's just like cheating culture, which people wouldn't see as abuse, but that's abusive. That's abusive to your partner. And it might be on the low level of abuse, but it's still something that will mentally affect your partner in the long run. And that's not what a healthy relationship is. So I think there is so much that we can do. It starts with, in lots of sectors, it's from going down up. Yep. As I said earlier, it definitely is stuff that we can change within our groups now. And it's so important for us as influencers to really just stand against that. I don't repost things that I see and I'm like, what? That's so toxic. Like on TikTok. Like it was like a funny thing on TikTok to pretend to hit your girlfriend and see their reaction as a joke. And I wrote on one of the comments, it had millions of views and it was a trend. And I was like, why are we promoting this? Why are we promoting abuse?
That's perpetuating the violence, which is exactly what we want.
And people are like, oh, it's just a joke, but it's not a joke because this is happening to somebody. Like this is happening to someone.
There's so much toxic masculinity out there, and society really just allows it to happen. They allow it with like, you know, hey bro, you know, she's really hot. You're objectifying someone doing that. You know, just the way you talked about cheating and cheater culture and TikTok. And there's just a lot of toxic masculinity in all of social media, on all of TikTok. And you talked about enabling in circles, and that I totally understand, because when I decided to leave my ex-husband, I went to his family first, asking them for help. I wanted him to go to anger management therapy. And they told me, his mother told me, that even though he had gone to anger management therapy, that she wouldn't help because he was totally fine. And
Oh,
so
that happened with
That's
my
fantastic.
ex-boyfriend's mom as well. She was
so
the same way.
just so toxic. So that's how I get into, we need to teach our children that this isn't okay. As parents, if you're a parent and you see your adult son hurting his girlfriend, or like even talking bad to his girlfriend on the phone, you don't allow that. You tell them, hey, this isn't nice. You can't talk to someone like that. They're a real person. This doesn't sound like a good relationship or a healthy relationship. Even as, I think that parents forget that even as adults, even though you love your child so much and they're a grown adult, you can help them through things. And so, I just want to put that out there, because when I had to leave my abusive relationship, my parents had the opportunity to help me, but they chose not to. And that's okay. But it's not okay at the same time, because I would never do that to a child of mine. And I think that by going back to, the basics about raising our children and teaching them to be good and honest people who treat everyone decently, then we can correct a lot of it. But again, it's like you said, we need to correct stuff now. We need to talk about this stuff now, and we can all, I know this sounds really hippie-ish. We can all kind of go inward and decide whether we want to correct patterns of behavior or not. And I really think that everyone should get therapy, not only if they see patterns or not, just because we all, even if you think you have had a perfect life, you probably have had some form of trauma, and you can help heal yourself and not pass that trauma somehow onto someone else by targeting them, because a lot of abusers have had trauma in their life and they're just reflecting it at you. So people who have been
you also have to remember, there is you're saying his mum didn't want to help you. We also don't know what his mum has experienced.
That's exactly it.
And the older generations, of people, it wasn't normal to talk about trauma.
No,
it's our generation that wants to deal with the trauma.
Exactly.
And now with the whole Black Lives Matter movement and all these other things that are happening worldwide, people are realizing they have lots of generational trauma on top of their own experiences. So people are starting now to do that. So really, as us, because we're going to be the next parents, or we're already in the bracket to be parents, we need to be the ones to do that, because unfortunately the generation above us, they didn't have those opportunities. And women were getting beat by their husbands and in abusive relationships, and it was normal. It was okay. That's he's just mad sometimes. We don't talk about it. No, that's my husband. I don't have any financial stability to leave him. Our generation is like, no, I make my own money. No, I'm good. I don't need that. You know what I mean? So I think it's also understanding that, and because I was really angry with my ex-boyfriend's mum as well. She didn't hold him accountable either. But then I had to understand that she is in a different generational bracket.
Absolutely.
And I cannot hold her accountable for that, because she just doesn't understand. And I'm not going to let her off, but the reason her child is an abuser is because of her enabling him.
That's exactly it. It starts with parents. It starts with parents. And the reason why I thought how my ex-husband was treating me was okay is because that's what my father and my mother modeled for me. That was their relationship. That was how things went down. And I thought it was okay to hurt someone or say whatever you wanted as long as you said sorry. So when my ex-husband did that to me, I thought, well, he said sorry, he gave me a present. Well, it must be okay. This is normal. This is what I saw. And so we are really unpacking everything in our generation and trying to fix things, because we realize this is not the way we want to live, and this is not normal, and this isn't proper nice behavior. But it's kind of hard to do that and have it all on us. But it's good to know where it stems from, because if you look back in like the 1950s, the way women were treated. I mean, we've only been voting for how long even?
Yeah.
So we are having to push other women up and that power up, because that's where we have to be on an equality level, and we're not there yet.
And that's also a problem. We
Yes.
don't treat each other equally
No.
as women.
We need
Like,
to. We
and-
need to start doing that, because
and,
right
like-
now it is so important. It's vital.
Right. And for example, my boyfriend cheats on me with another woman, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
I'm gonna, this is how we're taught, women should go against the other woman, not against the man you're in the relationship with, when it's his problem, not her
Yeah.
problem, but you hate her and everyone targets her. And the problem is the fact that she even thought that that was okay is because society wants her to go against me in her own way because she's a woman. And the thing is, I even wrote this on Twitter the other day. I was like, if women just stopped going against each other, men wouldn't even have a chance to do anything to disrespect us in any form, because we would just be united.
We need to stand together. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think everything that you guys have been saying in terms of the patterns of behavior, the message of accountability, we need to unpack. And it is very much up to our generation and the generations below us to sort of bring about this silent issue. And it has been a silent issue. But I mean, even due to this year with COVID, I mean, there's such hugely increased rates of domestic violence and abuse, which is insane. We need to make sure that people are still talking about this, because it was still existing before COVID. Of course, like, are you kidding?
Yeah.
It's completely there, but now it's more so, and it's being spoken about, which I'm so grateful for. But we need to continue to raise this awareness, and the fact that both of you are speaking about your stories and standing up for that is just so incredible. And honestly, I have loved speaking to you ladies today. It's just been so insightful and also empowering. And I just wanted to say thank you so much, Aisha and Amber, just for your energy and your stories, and also your power, and the fact that you can really have people to look up to you and look up to the work that sort of we're all doing to help raise awareness of domestic violence and sort of shed more light onto this very salient issue of gender-based violence. So thank you so much to those that watched and also listened today. You can find out more about the Culture Change Commitment and what you can do in your own life and industry to end violence against women and girls, because this really needs to be done, guys. So please go to spotlightinitiative.org/get involved. And thank you so much for listening. And before I go, remember this hand signal.